Welcome back to Nicki Woo Cozy Stories. I'm your host, Nicki. Tonight, we continue our cozy retelling of The Secret Garden, Episode 9, The Cry in the Night. Let's begin. And for a long while, the night lay quiet over Misselthwaite Manor. The great house seemed to sleep, its long corridors still and shadowed, its heavy doors closed fast against the dark. Beyond the tall windows, the moor stretched wide and silent beyond the deep sky, and even the wind had grown gentle, moving only faintly across the distant grasses. In her room, Mary Lennox slept warmly beneath her blankets. The fire in the grate had sunk low, leaving only a soft, steady glow that flickered now and then against the walls. Everything was calm. Everything had rest. Until something stirred in the silence. At first, it was so faint it scarcely seemed to belong to the waking world at all. A sound, half-formed, uncertain, as though it had slipped out of a dream and wandered unnoticed into the night. Mary shifted slightly in her sleep, her brow tightening just a little. Though she didn't wake, the sound faded again, and for a moment, the stillness returned. But then it came again, and this time, it didn't fade so quickly. It lingered, not loud, not clear, but very troubled. A thin, uneven murmur carried faintly through the walls of the great house. Mary's eyes opened. She lay still at once, listening. The room hadn't changed. The dim firelight, the drawn curtains, the quiet air, all remained just as it had been, except for that sound. It came again, longer now, and there was no mistaking it. It was crying. Mary's lips pressed together at once. She knew it. She had heard it before. And though she did not speak his name, the thought rose immediately in her mind. Colin. For a few moments she didn't move. She only listened, her face growing stiller, sharper, as the sound went on. Again, and again, and again. Not steady but restless, broken, as though whoever made it could not stop, even if he wished to. Mary drew in a deep breath through her nose, slow and tight. Still, the sound didn't cease. It went on, filling the quiet of the house, slipping through the walls, disturbing the stillness of the night in a way that made it impossible to ignore. Her brow furrowed. Her fingers tightened slightly against the coverlet. And then her irritation came, sharp and immediate. The crying was dreadful, not because it was loud, but because it wouldn't stop, because it went on and on and on, thin and miserable and helpless, until it seemed to press against her ears and refuse to let her rest. Mary sat up more abruptly now, the blanket shifting around her. "Why does he make such a noise?" she whispered, her voice tight and low. But even as she spoke, the crying came again, longer this time, more strained, more desperate. And then something in her changed. The irritation didn't fade. It grew. It sharpened. It turned into something hotter, something far less patient. She knew very well who it was. And she knew, too, that she had no reason to go to him. They didn't speak. They had scarcely looked at one another since the day she had been taken into his room. He had been cross and strange, and she had not liked him. And there had been no reason at all for her to think of him as anything but another disagreeable person in the house. Why should she go to him now? Why should she leave her bed, leave her warmth, for someone who only cried and shouted and made the whole house uneasy? Mary drew in a breath, her jaw tightening. And still, the crying went on. Then, restless, unending. She swung her feet toward the edge of the bed, though she did not rise yet. It was unbearable. It was foolish. It was weak. And yet it would not stop. Mary turned toward the door, her eyes fixed on it now, as though she could see through it, down the long passages of the house. If she stayed where she was, she would still hear it. If she covered her ears, she would hear it still. If she tried to sleep again, she knew she could not. Her fingers pressed against the coverlet. Her breath came a little quicker now, not with fear, but with something building inside of her that she could not yet name. If he went on, if he did not stop, then perhaps she would go. Not because she wished to, not because she liked him, but because she could not bear it. And still the crying went on. Mary drew in a breath and let it out slowly, as though she might steady herself if she were quiet enough, still enough. But it made no difference. The sound slipped through the walls just the same, thin and miserable and unending. She lay back for a moment, pulling the blankets up again as if she might shut it out. She pressed her cheek into the pillow and closed her eyes. If she didn't listen, if she would not attend to it, then perhaps it would fade. But it didn't fade. It came again, longer, more broken. Mary opened her eyes at once. "Oh, do stop," she whispered, though there was no one there to hear her. Her hands clenched faintly in the blankets. Why should she go? Why should she trouble herself at all? He was nothing to her. He had been rude and strange and very disagreeable. She had not liked him, and he had not liked her. There was no reason, none at all, for her to leave her bed in the middle of the night and go to him as though she cared what became of him. She turned on her side again, her back now toward the door. Let him cry. Let him cry as much as he liked. It was not her concern. And yet, the sound came again, and again, and again. Mary's eyes opened once more, and this time, they chose not to close. Her breath grew shorter, not with fear, but with rising impatience. It was dreadful. It was worse than dreadful. It was unbearable. She pushed herself right up again, quicker now, the blanket slipping away from her shoulders. "I wish he would stop," she said under her breath, more sharply this time. But the crying didn't stop. It went on, restless and weak and constant, filling the silence until there was no silence left at all. Mary swung her feet fully to the floor now. The cold touched her skin, but she scarcely noticed it. Her whole body felt tight, drawn with something that had begun as irritation and had now become something much stronger, something that would not let her lie still. Should she endure it? Why should she lie there and listen to such a thing when she might go and make him stop? Her head lifted. Her eyes flashed. "Yes," she whispered suddenly, the word coming almost before she knew what she meant to say. "If he cries again," and even as the thought formed, he did. Louder, more desperate than before. Mary stood up. "That's enough," she said, her voice low but fierce in the quiet room. "I will not bear it." She pulled on her robe and pulled it about her quickly, her movement sharp now, purposeful. If he would not stop, then she would make him stop. She turned toward the door, and just as her hand lifted, she heard something else. Footsteps, quick, uneven, hurrying along the corridor outside. Mary paused, listening. The crying continued beyond the walls, and now, beneath it, the sound of someone running, coming nearer, coming fast. The footsteps came nearer, quick, uneven, hurrying along the corridor with a kind of frightened urgency that did not belong to the quiet house at night. Mary stood quite still, her hand hovering near the door, listening. The crying hadn't stopped. It rose again, thin and broken, and now, with the sound of running feet beneath it, the whole house no longer felt still at all. Something was happening. Mary moved then, quickly, but without noise, and opened her door just enough to look out. The corridor lay dim and shadowed, lit only by a faint lamp set far down the passage. The long walls seemed to stretch endlessly into the darkness. And along that passage, someone was coming. It was the nurse. She was hurrying, her steps uneven, her face pale and anxious even in the low light. Her cap had slipped slightly, and she held one hand against her side as though she had come a great distance in haste. Mary stepped out at once. "What's the matter?" she asked, her voice low but direct. The nurse startled slightly when she saw her, as though she had not expected anyone to be awake. "Oh, Miss Mary," she said quickly, almost breathless. "It's Master Colin. He's worked himself into such a state as I've ever seen. He'll do himself harm if he goes on so." The crying sounded again, louder now, more strained. The nurse turned her head toward the direction of it with a troubled look. "I cannot quiet him," she went on. "He will not listen. He says no one understands him. He will not have anyone near him. And yet he will not stop crying out." Mary's eyes sharpened. "I heard him," she said. "Aye, you would," the nurse answered, almost helplessly. "The whole house must hear him tonight." Another cry came, ragged, desperate. The nurse pressed her lips together. "I do not know what to do with him," she said. "If he goes on so, he'll make himself worse, far worse. He must be stopped. But he will not be stopped." She looked at Mary then, quickly, searchingly, and something like a thought seemed to come to her. "Would you," she began, hesitating just a little, "would you come and speak to him, miss?" Mary did not answer at once. The crying came again. It echoed faintly down the corridor, restless, unceasing. The nurse's voice softened slightly, though it was still urgent. "He spoke of you before," she said. "He's taken a notion that you would." She did not quite finish the sentence. Mary stood very still, her face set. Why should she go? Why should she be sent for, as though she were meant to soothe him or quiet him or tend to him as though it were her place to do so? He had been disagreeable. He had been selfish. He had made no effort to be kind. And now they would have her go to him in the middle of the night because he could not govern himself? Mary's hands tightened at her side. The crying came again, longer, more broken, and something in her answered it, not with pity, but with fierce impatience. "If he will not stop," she said at last, her voice low and steady, "then I will make him stop." The nurse stared at her for a moment, uncertain, but Mary had already begun to move. She stepped past her into the corridor, her small figure straight and determined, her pace quickening as she turned toward the sound. The nurse followed at once, and together they went down the long passage toward the room where the crying had not yet ceased. The door stood open. The sound struck her before she reached it. Not just crying, but wild, broken screaming, loud enough to fill the corridor. Mary did not stop. She ran straight in. Colin was not sitting up. He was flung face down into the pillows, his head buried, his body twisted in his bedclothes, his fists striking against the mattress as though he could not drive the terror out of himself. The pillows muffled the sound, but not enough. The cries were still loud, still jagged, still dreadful to hear. "I shall die! I shall die!" came through the smothered fabric. "I felt it. I know I did. No one believes me." Miss Medlock stood near the fire, rigid with alarm. Martha hovered near the bed, her hands clasped tight, as though afraid to touch him. The nurse lingered just behind them, uneasy, uncertain, as if she dared not go closer. The room was full of people, of worry, of noise, and yet nothing was being done. Mary went straight to the bed. "Stop it," she said. Her voice cut through everything. Sharp, clear. Colin gasped, but the screaming did not stop at once. "I shall die," he cried again. "I felt it. I know I did. I shall grow crooked." "Stop it," Mary said again. She stepped closer, right beside him. "I hate you," she said suddenly. "I hate you." The words struck the room in silence. Colin lifted his head from the pillow. His face was white, his eyes wild and wet with tears. The screaming stopped, not slowly, but all at once. Mary stood firm. "If you scream again," she said, her voice low and fierce, "I will scream too." She leaned closer. "And I can scream louder than you can." No one spoke. No one moved. "I will frighten you," she said. "I will frighten you if you do not stop." Colin stared at her, shocked, almost stunned. No one had ever spoken to him so. Then, "I felt it," he said hoarsely. "I did. I felt it in my back. There is a lump. I know there is." "There is not," Mary said at once. "There is," he insisted, though weaker now. "There is not," she said again. "It's only your bones. You are so thin you can feel them." "I am not," he cried. "There is something there. There is." Mary turned sharply. "Come here," she said to the nurse. "Come and look at his back." The nurse hesitated at once, her hands drawn close. "He will not like it," she said quickly. "He'll cry out again. He always does." "He will," Mary said. She turned back. "Let her look," she said. Colin stared at her, breathing hard. For a moment, it seemed he might refuse. Then, "Let her," he said faintly. The nurse stepped forward carefully, almost fearfully, her hands gentle as she examined his back. The room held still around them. She looked, paused, looked again, and then straightened. "There is no lump," she said. Colin stared at her. "None?" "None," she said. "Nothing but what has always been there." Mary drew in a breath. "There," she said. "You see? You were frightening yourself." Colin lay still. His face had changed. The terror had not yet vanished, but it had loosened. His breathing slowed, uneven, but quieter. After a moment, his voice came again, small now. "Shall I live?" The question hung in the room. The nurse looked at him, more gently now. "Oh, yes," she said, "if you will do as you are told." He watched her closely. "If you will take your food," she went on, "and go in the fresh air when it is time, and not work yourself into these states, there is no reason you should not grow strong." "Strong?" "Yes," she said, "stronger than you are now." Mary stood beside the bed, listening. "You see," she said quietly, "you are not going to die." Colin did not answer at once. He looked from the nurse to Mary. Something in his expression had shifted. Not fear now, but the beginning of belief. And for the first time, he was quiet. For a little while, no one spoke. The room, which had been so full of noise, seemed almost too quiet now. Colin lay back against the pillows, pale and spent. His lashes were still damp, his breathing uneven, but no longer wild. The nurse moved first. She came forward quickly now, more certain than before, beginning at once to set things right. She straightened the bedclothes, lifted the pillows, and settled him more comfortably, her hands gentle but practiced. "There now," she said softly. "You have worn yourself out, Master Colin. That is what has made you feel so ill." Colin didn't answer. He lay still, letting her move him as she would. "If I had known what you were fearing," she went on, "I could have told you there was nothing to be afraid of." Her voice carried a trace of regret now. "But you must not work yourself in such a state again." She drew the covers up more evenly, smoothing them with care. "You will be easier presently," she added. "You must lie quiet." Colin's eyes shifted then, slowly, until they found Mary. "You said," he began faintly, "you said I was not going to die." "You are not," Mary said. Her voice was quieter now, but just as certain. "You frightened yourself." Colin watched her. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, "You made me stop," he said. Mary didn't answer at once. "I was tired of listening to you," she said at last. But there was no sharpness in it now, only truth. The nurse glanced between them, something in her expression softening. "You had better rest now," she said more gently. Then, to Mary, "And you, Miss Mary, you have been up in all of this as well." Mary shook her head at once. "I'm not tired," she said. She moved closer to the bed. "I will stay with him." The nurse hesitated, just a moment, then gave a small, grateful nod. "Aye," she said softly. "He is quieter with you here." She adjusted the pillows once more, making certain he was settled. "If he is asleep in half an hour, I will come back," she added. "I shall be in the next room." Colin's eyes hadn't left Mary. "You will stay?" he asked again, more faintly now. "Yes," Mary said. She drew a chair nearer and sat down beside the bed. Not stiffly, but simply, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. The nurse moved toward the door, pausing once to look back. Everything was quieter now, ordered, safe again. Then she slipped out, softly, leaving them alone. Colin lay still, watching Mary. The storm had passed, and something else, something quieter, had taken its place. For a little while, neither of them spoke. The fire burned low in the grate, its light shifting softly against the walls. The great house, which had seemed so full of noise before, had fallen quiet again. Colin lay back against the pillows, watching Mary. His eyes no longer looked wild, only tired, and thinking. "You said you would stay," he said after a time. "I am staying," Mary answered. She sat beside him, her hands resting quietly in her lap. She didn't fidget. She didn't try to fill the silence. She simply remained. Colin watched her for a long time. "You don't look frightened now," he said. "I wasn't frightened," Mary answered. "You were screaming," she added. Colin considered this. "Yes," he said. After a moment he asked, "Why did you not run away?" Mary paused. "I thought about it," she said plainly. "But I was too angry." Colin looked at her again, more closely this time. "You're not like anyone else," he said. Mary didn't answer that. She only shifted slightly in her chair. After a moment, she said, "My Ayah used to sing to me. She sang in Hindustani. I didn't always understand the words, but I liked the sound of them." "Will you sing?" he asked. Mary shook her head. "I don't remember them well enough." She paused. "Then I could tell you something instead." Colin's eyes settled on her again. "What?" Mary hesitated only a moment this time. "I could tell you about the garden." Colin's breathing changed. just slightly. The garden? Mary nodded. It's a secret garden, she said. No one goes in. No one has gone for years. And how do you know? I've been there, Mary said. Colin stared at her. You have? Yes. Where is it? Mary shook her head at once. I cannot tell you that. Why? Because it's a secret, she said. Colin was quiet for a moment. Then, I like secrets, he said. Mary's voice grew softer then, without her quite meaning it to. There is a door, she said, and the walls are covered in ivy, so thick you cannot see the stone at all. Colin listened without moving. And when the wind blows, she went on, the ivy stirs a little, and you can hear it like something whispering. His eyes did not leave her face. And there are trees inside, she said, old ones, and the branches that hang so low that you can stand beneath them and not see the sky. Colin drew in a slow breath. And the earth, Mary said, smells warm, even when the air is cold. She paused. There are places where the green things are just beginning to push up through the soil. Flowers? Colin asked. Yes, Mary said. Though you cannot see them all yet. Only the little points of green. But you know what will come and what will be. Colin's voice was quieter now. As if they are alive, he said. And they are, Mary answered. They're waking up. Colin lay very still. I dreamed about it, he said after a moment. Mary looked at him. You did? He nodded faintly. I thought I was there, and it wasn't lonely. Mary did not speak at once. Then she said, very quietly, It's not. Colin's hand shifted slightly against the coverlet. Mary noticed it. She hesitated, only a second, and then moved her hand just enough that it rested near his. Not holding, only near. Colin's fingers turned, barely, and touched hers. He didn't pull away. Neither did she. The firelight moved gently along the walls. Colin's breathing slowed. You will tell me more, he murmured. Yes, Mary said, when you are stronger. He didn't answer. His eyes had closed. Mary sat beside him, very still, listening to the quiet, and she did not move away. Colin didn't sleep long. It was not the heavy, restless sleep he had fallen into before, but something lighter, quieter. When he opened his eyes again, the fire had burned lower and the room felt still and dim. Mary didn't move. She sat where she had been, her chair drawn near the bed. He watched her for a moment before speaking. You're still here, he said. Yes, Mary answered. She leaned forward slightly. You slept. Colin considered this. I wasn't dreaming of dying, he said. No, Mary said. You were not. There was a pause, then, You said you had been in the garden, Colin said. Mary didn't answer at once. She had not meant to say so much. Yes, she said at last. I have been there. Colin pushed himself a little higher against the pillows. How did you get in? I found the key, Mary said. And the door. Colin stared at her. How long have you known? Mary hesitated. Then she said, For some time. You knew and you didn't tell me? There was no anger in his voice yet, only surprise. Mary met his eyes. I didn't know if I could trust you, she said. The words stayed in the room. Colin's expression changed. You didn't trust me? No, Mary said. I thought you would tell. Colin drew in a breath. I wouldn't have told, he said quickly. Mary said nothing. "I would not," he repeated more firmly now. "You might have," Mary said. "You like to have people listening to you." Colin's face flushed faintly. "I am not as I was," he said. Mary watched him. "No," she said slowly, "you are not." There was a moment of quiet between them. Then Colin said, "I want to know." Mary didn't speak. "I want to see it," he said. "You cannot," Mary said at once. "You're not strong enough." "I could be," Colin said. "Not yet," Mary answered. Colin lay back for a moment thinking. "Then," he said, "if I keep your secret, will you tell me everything?" Mary looked at him. "You must always keep it," she said. "I will," Colin said. "You mustn't tell anyone." "I will not." Mary studied him. "You mustn't even speak of it unless we are alone." "I will not," he said again. There was a steadiness in his voice now that had not been there before. Mary watched him a moment longer. Then, "I will tell you," she said. Colin let out a slow breath. "You must get well first," she added. "I shall get well," he said. And it was not said wildly, not as before, but quietly, as though he were thinking it through. Mary nodded once. "You must eat," she said, "and go out in the air." Colin turned his head slightly. "Into the garden?" Mary shook her head. "Not at first, but someday," she said. Colin's eyes returned to her. "Yes," he said, "someday." The word lingered, not like a dream, but like something that might be waited for. Mary sat back in her chair again. The room was quiet, but it didn't feel empty. There was something in it now, something held between them, something not to be spoken out loud, but kept. Mary didn't wake early the next morning. The light was already in the room when she opened her eyes. For a moment, she lay still. Then everything came back at once. Colin, the night, the garden. She sat up quickly. "I have slept too long," she said. Just then, the door opened and Martha came in, carrying her breakfast on a tray. "Well now," Martha said, setting it down. "You look as if you've had a night of it." Mary pushed her hair back from her face. "I was with Colin," she said. "I thought as much," Martha answered. "He's been asking for you this morning." Mary looked up quickly. "For me?" "Aye," said Martha. "He says, 'Please ask Miss Mary if she'll please come and talk to me.'" She gave a small nod. "He said 'please' too." Mary's eyes widened slightly. "He never does." "No," Martha said. "And that's what I thought." She leaned a little closer, her voice lower now. "It's a queer fancy's taken to you," she said. "I've not seen the like." Mary said nothing, but she listened. "He were that bad last night," Martha went on. "Screaming fit to frighten anybody." She gave Mary a sideways look. "But you went in and gave it to him." Mary's expression did not change. "I made him stop," she said. "Aye," Martha said. "You did that. And there's not another in this house as would have dared it." She shook her head slightly. "Poor lad," she added. "He's been spoiled till salt won't save him." Mary sat still, her hands resting lightly on the coverlet. "My mother says," Martha went on, "as the two worst things that can happen to a child is never to have his own way, or to always have it." She gave a thoughtful little nod. "She doesn't know which is worst." Mary was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I was going to go to Dickon this morning." Martha straightened a little. "Well, you can go after to him," she answered. "He'll keep." Mary hesitated. She had meant to go at once. "That's right," she said. "He'll be looking for you." Mary slipped out of bed and began to dress quickly. "I will tell him," she said, "and then I will go." Martha lifted the tray again, watching her with a small, knowing look. "Well," she said, half to herself, "there's summat changed, and that's plain enough." Mary didn't answer, but she knew it was true. Mary did not wait once she left the house. She ran, down the corridor, through the great door, and out into the fresh morning air. The wind met her at once, cool and alive. She hardly felt it. She ran faster, and in 5 minutes she was there. The secret garden. Dickon sat on the grass as if he belonged to it, as if the earth itself had made room for him. The fox lay stretched at his side. The crow watched from near his knee, and 2 small squirrels clung to his shoulders, their tiny paws curled into his coat. Dickon looked up, and his face broke into a wide, easy grin. "Well now," he said, "thou art late this morning." Mary came in breathless, but bright. "I had to stay with Colin," she said. Dickon smiled, softened. "Aye," he said. "How is he?" "He was very ill," Mary answered. "He thought he felt a lump, and that he was going to die." Dickon's brow drew together. "Eh," he said quietly, "that's a bad way for a lad to be thinking." He glanced out over the garden, thoughtful. "A body shut up and seeing naught," he went on. "He's gets to thinking queer." Mary stepped closer. "He wants to see you," she said. Dickon looked at her. "Me?" "And the creatures," Mary said. "He wants to see Captain and the fox and the squirrels." Dickon's face lit, but more gently this time. "Well," he said, "we mun go and get him then." Mary drew a breath, and then she began. "Aye, that we mun," she said. Dickon's head tilted, and then his grin came slow and wide. Mary went on, a little quicker now, the words tumbling. "I'll tell thee what us'll do first. We'll go back and speak to him, and I'll ask him if thou can come and see him tomorrow morning, and bring the creatures with thee. And then, when there's a bit more leaves out, and happen a bud or 2, we'll get him to come out. Us'll push him in the chair, and bring him here, and show him everything." She stopped, just for a breath. Dickon was watching her, openly delighted. "Well now," he said softly, "thou'st got it, haven't thou?" Mary did not quite smile, but her eyes shone. "I'm going to speak to him that way," she said. Dickon laughed then, full and warm. "That'll do him more good than aught else," he said. "There's naught like laughing." He looked over the garden again, the small green shoots, the bare branches, the quiet promise of change. "We'll have him out here," he said. "Sun'll do it, air and growing things." Then he looked back at her. "We'll not waste no time." Mary felt it then, clear and certain. "I must go back and tell him," she said. "Aye," Dickon answered. "Go on then." Mary turned and ran again, back through the door, through the corridors, carrying the garden with her. She didn't slow until she reached Colin's room. She went in at once. Colin was lying against the pillows, pale still, but awake. He turned his head quickly when she entered. "You've been out," he said at once. "Yes," Mary answered, coming nearer. He looked at her closely. "You smell like flowers," he said, "and fresh things." Mary stood beside the bed. "It's the wind from the moor," she said, "and the garden." Colin drew in a breath, as if he could take it in. "Tell me," he said. Mary hesitated only a moment, and then she began again, deliberately. "I've been in the garden," she said. Colin blinked. "In the what?" Mary's eyes flickered, just slightly pleased. "I'm giving thee a bit of Yorkshire," she said. "I cannot speak it well to Dickon or Martha, but I want thee to hear the shape of it. Thou'rt Yorkshire too, born and bred." Colin stared at her, and then slowly he laughed. "What are you doing?" he said. "I shall speak it to thee," Mary answered, and he laughed again, more easily this time. Mary watched him closely, then went on. "I saw Dickon," she said. "He had the fox with him, and the crow, and the squirrels, one on each shoulder. and Captain, and a little pony with shaggy hair all around his eyes. Colin's face changed as he listened. I wish I could see them, he said. Mary leaned forward slightly. You shall, she said. We will bring him. Dickon and the creatures. Colin looked at her searchingly. Would he come? He would come for you, Mary said. Colin was quiet for a moment. I have not liked people, he said slowly. Nor I, Mary said. And Ben Weatherstaff does not like people either. But Dickon doesn't mind us, and we don't mind each other. Colin glanced at her, and something in that seemed to steady him. I was wrong yesterday, he said. You were, Mary answered. I didn't want you to send Dickon away, Colin said. I only didn't like him being called an angel. Mary's mouth moved slightly. He's not like an angel, she said. Colin let out a quiet laugh. No, he said. He's not. The room grew quiet, but it was not the same kind of quiet as before. Mary looked at him directly. Can I trust you? She said. Colin's expression changed at once. Yes, he said. You can. Mary held his gaze. I found the garden, she said. Colin's eyes widened, bright now. You did. I found the door, Mary said. And I found the key, weeks ago. I didn't tell you because I didn't know if I could trust you. Colin didn't look hurt. He only stared at her, as if something inside him had opened. I wouldn't have told, he said. I would not tell now. Mary watched him for a moment, and then she nodded. I know, she said, and something had begun between the two of them. Only just beginning. And so, at last, the house fell quiet again. The long corridors, which had carried the echoes of fear and hurried footsteps, settled once more into their deep and watchful stillness. Behind closed doors, all was calm. In his room, Colin lay resting, the storm of the night spent, his breathing slow and even, at last. And nearby, Mary slept too, no longer restless, no longer alone in her thoughts. Beyond the tall walls, the moor stretched wide beneath the dark sky, the wind moving softly now, as though it too had grown gentle. And though the night held its silence, something within the house had shifted, something small, only just beginning. And when you return, we step back into the garden together. For now, the house is quiet, the moor is calm, and the night settles softly over everything. So let the stillness of the manor drift gently around you. Let the quiet promise of the garden carry your thoughts away, and allow the story to rest here for the night. Sleep now. You are safe. You are loved. You've been listening to Nicki Cozy Stories, created by Nicole T. Woodard. May your dreams be gentle, and your sleep be deep.